the past 7 years, Felice Krycia has worked as a Veteran Services Officer at the Erie County Veteran Services Agency. She has assisted many of the area veterans and their family members navigate the Department of Veterans Affairs rules, regulations, and paperwork to gain the benefits they are due. Ms. Krycia is also a veteran, having served in the U.S. Air Force at the end of the Vietnam era and was one of the first women to work at missile silos out west. She is also a 30-year member of her local American Legion. As well as dealing with the federal VA agencies and Erie County Veteran Service Agency, collaborates with local veteran organizations and the veteran community to increase awareness of the benefits veterans and surviving spouses may be eligible for. Training for all VSOs of Erie County Veteran Services through the American Legion, and they must attend training every year or two to keep their accreditation. So Felice, thank you for being here, and I will turn it over to you. Just let me know when you want me to advance.
Okay, sounds good. All right, and added to my little background, I am also now certified through the New York State, so I have dual certification. So it gives me an added, bonus there, training. So, okay, so to get into this really quickly, we are advocates for the veterans, and we represent you to the Department of Veterans Affairs. So, what our job is to convince the VA to grant the benefits that the veteran is, looking to receive. So we don't work for the Department of Veterans Affairs. We actually are advocates to work to get you your benefits. So we kind of at times we are adversarial with the Department of Veterans Affairs. So moving on to the next slide. I want you to have this basic understanding of what a VA pension and what service-connected benefits are actually about. And where do you go for help? And I am reading off of the slides for those people who are on the telephone and can't see this, so that they can understand what we're talking about. So next slide, please. So this slide talks about the various areas that you can go to get some information for those who have computer technology. If you go to the www.va.gov website, it actually explains all the different benefits that are out there. They also have a toll-free number, which is 1-800-827-1000. Again, that's 1-800-827-1000. That is toll-free for the entire United States. So if you are calling there, just be patient and put it on speakerphone or something and do other things while you're waiting to get in. You can also contact us. We are at 858-6363. Again, our number is 858-6363, and we can help you with any basic questions. So next slide. There are 3 branches of the VA. So you can think about them as one great big trunk of a tree, but there are 3 big branches that come off of it. One of them is the healthcare system. The other section is the Department of Veterans Affairs, and we have a regional office here in Buffalo. And the 3rd branch is the National Cemetery Administration, and we'll talk about all 3 of these things. Next slide. So the healthcare overview that's nationwide for veterans. It's very complex. It has medical centers, hospital-based home care, nursing care facilities, substance abuse treatment facilities, clinics, and then we have contract clinics, which are private doctors that have contracts with the VA. Not all veterans are eligible for VA medical, and that causes some hardships for veterans who think that no matter what happens, they're always going to have VA medical help. It is not true. The way the VA has now set up their medical benefits, it's a 8-tier system. It's based on medical need, if you're service-connected disabled, if you have a Purple Heart, if you're retired, then and also based on finances. So that's one of those things that it's not automatic. If you're ever thinking about, I've never filed for VA healthcare, then what you need to do is you need to go up to the hospital up on Bailey here in Buffalo and actually bring your discharge papers and bring your tax forms from last year and let them make a determination whether or not you are eligible for health care. That is something that only the VA Medical Center can do. So now for people who are service-connected disabled, you pretty much have free medical coverage for what your service-connected disability is. They wind up putting you in different tier groups. Once you hit 50% of being disabled, you wind up being a priority group 1. So if you have a Purple Heart, you are priority group 2, and then it just moves down the line. So for those of you who are service connected, you may not realize that if you have service connected disabilities and you're not 100%, you can't just go into the VA and then say, well, here are my prescriptions for my private doctors, I would like them filled. They will not do that. So that is something where you would need to go into the VA, talk to your general practitioner and see if you can get those specialized prescriptions to come through them instead of coming through private doctors. So non-service connected veterans, they have to pass that means test, which means you have to be in financial need to be able to qualify. So again, you need to go to the medical center and have them figure that out for you. Next slide. So then, as this says, a benefits delivery system, and it says that's even more complex than the medical system. There are all kinds of different financial, vocational, rehab counseling, home loan guarantees, life insurance, education benefits, and a whole lot more. There's a lot of different benefits out there for veterans. What we're going to talk about today, though, is pretty much the non-service connected pension and the service connected compensation. The next slide, please. Now, the service connected pension is, or non-service connected pension, sorry. Again, like I said, it's a matter of financial needs and medical needs. So this means that you have to have an eligible DD 214, or for people who are previous to the 1950s, what we call a good discharge papers that shows that you were either honorable, or as sometimes they will grant it to you if you had a general under honorable condition. And don't forget, DD 214s did not exist before the 1950s, and that would have just been a regular discharge from service paperwork for the World War II veterans. To qualify for non-service connected pension, you have to have served during a wartime period. So there are chunks of time that do not qualify for this. And that would be the time period between World War II and the outbreak of the Korean conflict, and then from the end of the Korean conflict in January 55 to the starts of hostility in Vietnam, which is 1964, and then for the end of the Vietnam period, which was in May, I believe, of 1975, until 1990, with the start of the Gulf War. So those periods do not qualify for non-service connected pension. There are 3 levels of the non-service connected pension. One is just low income, very low means to this. You almost have to be a poverty level to qualify for this. You have to be not working. You have to have about like $1,000 a month income, and it's very hard to qualify for that. The second level of this is for people who are housebound and are now have more medical issues, and they need assistance with the activities of daily living. That would be things such as getting up in the morning, being able to walk with some assistance, having assistance getting dressed, having assistance maybe going to the bathroom, bathing, things like that, where you actually either have a family member or you actually have an aide coming in who's assisting you. And then the third level for this non-service connected pension is nursing home care, which is called A&A or aid and attendance. Now, to qualify for this, the VA looks at your financial backgrounds, and they do a 3-year look back now. They used to not, but now they have a 3-year look back, just like how Medicaid does this. And they do not count your house, though, as an asset. So they still don't do that. If you, though, have a large piece of property, they would look at if you were able to subdivide it and sell off a lot, that lot would be considered an asset. So there is a lot of paperwork, a lot of financial things that you have to figure out. That's why we're here. We help you go through all that. We help you fill out those forms. There is a lot. It can be very stressful looking at these applications to try to figure out what you're doing. And that's why we're here, and other service officers around the country. We have a lot of New York State ones. There are some DFW ones. There are a lot of different service officers whose job is to help you at no cost. So that is what we're here for. So if anybody wants a more detailed explanation of how this all works, that is why we are here. So the next slide, please, Ma'am. So as I touched on the aid and attendance and the housebound, those, like the slide says, that is VA's jargon. They are added benefits. You do get more money for the more help and assistance that you need. So they're, like I said, they are very complicated to understand. You have to have different kinds of medical assistance, and you have to, this is also based on your income. The nice thing about the way they do it is if you have an aid coming in, you can subtract what you're paying for the aid to lower your income. So say your income, your monthly income, and it's the whole household income. If your whole household income is $3,000 and you're spending $3,200 a month for aids, as far as the VA is concerned, your income is zero. And so you would receive the maximum amount. So that's a good thing, that they actually allow you to subtract that from your income. So as I touched on before, the slide gets into this, the activities of daily living have to be, you have to have assistance with some of those. And then the aid and attendance is a nursing home or someone who actually requires pretty much total care in their own house. So the next slide, please. So they have a pension awards. My slides are out of. Yeah, if you go to the next slide, Katie. Okay. Pension awards are based on your net worth. So the net value of these assets of the veteran and all of the household residents. So if you are married, you and your spouse's income are counted as a household income. If you're sharing a home with one of your children or with their entire family, all of that income is counted. So the more people that live in your house, the more income you're going to have. Now, the VA also looks at all the liquid assets. And like I said, would be money in your bank accounts, any kind of CDs, anything like that you actually have. If you've got a fleet of Maseratis in your garage, that would be considered an asset. So things like that. You are allowed to have a car or two cars. If there's two people in the household and you have two cars, that's not considered an asset. If you have two people in the household and you have 5 cars, the other cars are considered an asset. And like I mentioned, if you have a house and it's sitting on a 20-acre parcel and you are living in a town that allows for 10-acre parcels, that other 10-acre parcel would be considered an asset. So the VA looks at what your net worth is, and then they decide. They do have a limit that's pretty much at around $160,000, I believe now. They raised it recently as your total assets cannot be over that. All right, so the next slide, please. So each case is based on its own merits. So there is not a cookie cutter yes or no. So they do look at each of them, and they will take, if you put in a claim for, like say you want aid and attendance and you're right at that $160,000 limit, they will look, VA will take into consideration what you're spending every month, and they will look and see that you're on a spend down, and they will take that into consideration. So sometimes, because it takes them months to approve a claim, they know that by the time it's finally approved, your assets will be below what their maximum is. So don't ever think that, ooh, I'm right on the edge, that you shouldn't file. Go ahead and file anyway, because by the time it's all said and done, the money the quote excess of money will have been spent, and you would fall within their parameters. Absolutely, you have to report all your net worth, because the VA, which is a federal agency, speaks to other federal agencies. So they will know what you reported to the IRS. They will know if you're retired and if you're getting retirement money. So it doesn't do any good to not report something, because they will check. So, and then they will deny you because you didn't, you weren't upfront about everything. So they, the whole idea of the VA program is it's to help people not be pauperized by these expenses, but it's not set up to save your money to be able to pass it on to your children or grandchildren. So it's not set up for you to be able to save your assets and to protect that. So next slide, please. So right now on the slide, it has what the maximum income is for this year. This is 2020. And right now, for the maximum monthly income for a single veteran, it's at $1,911. That is if you're at a nursing home. The maximum monthly income for a single veteran who is housebound is $1,400. And the maximum monthly income for a single veteran who's just doing low income pension is $1,146. So as I said, that is a very low amount, and it will increase. They did say it was going to increase for next year. We just don't have those new numbers. They're going to increase at the same rate as Social Security is going up. So I think that's 1.3% or something like that. I'm not really sure. So, okay, next slide, please. So exclusions from other income, it says include, but not limited to, a portion of unreimbursed medical expenses, which are revolving. So you have the same amount of medical expenses every month. And that could be your prescriptions, if you're having oxygen delivered to your house, if you're doing insulin, things like that. The cost of what you're paying for that's not being reimbursed, you can deduct that from your monthly income. You can also deduct from your monthly income healthcare premiums. And that would be like if you're doing Blue Cross and Blue Shield Saving Choice or Independent Health or any of those. You can, Aflac, you can deduct any of those payments from your monthly income. And then another expense that they allow you to deduct from your income is prepaid burial expenses. So say you go ahead and you want to set up your burial expenses so that your family doesn't have to do that. You can deduct that from that year's income if you paid for it this year. So say you were going to file, you were going into a nursing home, and you prepaid your burial benefits, you could deduct that from your annual income of this year. Next slide, please. I know this is a lot of information. So these slides will be available, I believe, correct? For people who want a copy of it. All right, so the next slide talks about the Medicaid impact. So if you wind up that you've done your spend down, you're in a nursing facility, or you're housebound and you have very low assets, because to get Medicaid, the assets need to be between $12,000 and $14,000. The VA, because Medicaid is a federal program, then the VA is not going to pay Medicaid. So what happens is that possible $1,900 that you were receiving from the VA now goes to being $90. And that money can be used for anything that the veteran needs. So that would be money that you would use for maybe possibly buying new socks or underwear, or special coffee that you want, or whatever it is that you want to use. So that $90 is not money that interferes with what your benefit is from Medicaid. They can't count that as income, and the nursing facility cannot take that. So that money is directly for the veteran's use. So that would be added to when people are on Medicaid. they wind up Social Security drops down to only being allowed to have $50. So when you add the 90, now you have $140 a month that can be used for the veterans, care for personal items. All right, next slide, please. So these are the different service officers that are available. And like I mentioned earlier, there's American Legion, there's state, there's VFW, Disabled American Veterans. We all work for free. We can't ask for any funding, and we can't make you join our organization either. So I'm American Legion. You don't belong to an American Legion, that's fine. You don't have to. We are not set up that we only work with our organization. We're trained and certified by the VA. So what happens is, because we're dealing with a lot of personal information, the VA actually takes our fingerprints and makes sure that we're not wanted criminals anywhere, and that we have not ever filed for bankruptcy or had any questionable backgrounds, because we are dealing with Social Security numbers, banking accounts, things like that. So they do run a very detailed security check on all service officers. So whenever you're working, whether it's us or anybody else, you ask them, are you certified? And you can ask, you have every right to ask to see that certification, so that you have that feeling of security, knowing that we have been checked over. Because in today's society, with so much fraud going on, that is something that you need to be aware of. So then in our case, we're trained here at the county, we're trained by the American Legion, and recently New York State has taken over some of our training. So like in my case, I'm dual certified. I believe our other service officer will be doing the same thing next year. The next slide says questions, and I know that this is a lot to go through. I don't know if anybody's typed anything at this point.
Yeah, we have a couple questions here.
Okay.
So what I'm seeing is the $50,000 earning cap still in effect? If so, why?
For non-service connected pension, the cap is what your income is every month. So that would be, there is no quote $50,000 cap. It's you have to have, if you're just using low income, your income can't be more than the number that I gave. So $50,000 would probably be over that amount, unless you had a lot of medical expenses. And the $1,146 is pretty much written in stone. Now, for anybody, and we haven't discussed this, but for anybody who's receiving compensation, and that's a whole other thing. Disability compensation doesn't have a pay limit unless you're on the individual unemployability, and that's a whole other thing. And yes, there is an income limit on that. And that's because you're being paid extra money at the 100% rate because you can't work. So if you're actually working, and you're making significant money, then you are not entitled to receive that 100% disability pay. So.
Okay, thank you, Felice. The next question I'm seeing, which you kind of went over, I don't know if there's anything else you'd want to add to it, but to be able to apply for a VA benefit, is there income guideline or assets? If there's anything else you wanted to add?
No, other than if you want, there is no income asset for compensation. That's a disability thing. That's based on your injury. Like I said, for the non-service connected benefit, yes, you definitely have a means test that you have to apply for. And like I said, that's where it gets complicated. That's why we're here, because then we can help you go through what do you have that can actually be used to help lower your income. Because like I said, there's a lot of medical expenses, recurring non-reimbursable medical expenses is that nice term that the VA likes to use. You're the same thing you're paying for every month. Like I said, the prescriptions, the aids that come in, if you're in a nursing facility, obviously that rather large payment can be deducted from your monthly income. So yes, there's definitely a means test of how much money you can have and can't have.
Okay, thank you. Next question I'm seeing is, can a spouse qualify for aid in attendance?
Only if she is, and that is later in the slides, but we'll touch on it now. A spouse has to be the surviving spouse of a deceased wartime vet. So in a case where the veteran is still alive and his spouse is in a nursing facility, the veteran can put in for the non-service connected benefit for low income at this point, but he can subtract out the payments that he's making for his wife's care. So that would be, so you would go through the whole, we would help you with that, but we would use as a medical expense, because it's a recurring expense, what the veteran is paying for the health care of his spouse. And you're not going to get the higher amount, which is the aid and attendance, because the veteran is not in the nursing facility, but they would be able to qualify for the lower income. Because that is an expense. It's a recurring medical expense that the veteran is paying for.
Okay, thank you. That's it for now. We can move on.
Okay, so next slide. Now we're going to talk about service-connected benefits. And that, as the slide says, it's a matter of right, not financial need. This is service-connected disability is the military's version of workers' compensation. When we are in the service, we are owned by the military for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if we are injured on the job, it is now the military's responsibility. So this is all related to what the injury was while you were on active duty, which is the entire 24 hours, 7 days a week. So if you wound up playing basketball and you blew out your knees because you took a real good, crash onto some concrete and your knees have never been the same, that's actually a service-connected injury, and you can go in and try to get a benefit for that. What happens is that you would wind up putting in the claim. It would wind up being, hopefully you made somebody knew that you got injured when you were in the service, and you have to connect those dots. We'll get into that in a minute. Reservists and National Guard members can also apply for disability compensation if they can prove that the injury happened while they were on duty. So that would be like the weekends, while they were doing the 2 weeks, if they were ever activated, for any of, federally activated, not state activated, but if you were federally activated, especially for some of those younger members of the National Guard who served over at Desert Storm and over in Iraq and Afghanistan, anything that happened while you were there, you're definitely eligible for this disability benefit. Okay, next slide. If you are service-connected disabled, so for anybody who's out there who already has a rating, say you have a rating that you got 10 years ago for your knees, and you've never done anything else with it, you can, if your knees have gotten worse, you can ask for an increase. So anybody who is service-connected disabled, you should be looking at your award letters once a year to see if you should be requesting an increase. If you don't have your award letters, you can ask the VA to send them to you, or in a case where, depending on where you're located, say if you're in Hamburg, there happens to be a state service officer that works at the Hamburg Town Hall. If you can actually sign a power of attorney with them, then they'll be able to access your paperwork and they can print you out those award letters. The great thing about award letters is that it tells you why you're rated what you're rated and what you need to do or where you need to be to get the next higher rating. They are critical pieces of paper to hang on to. And so you should be having that laminated, do something, put it in a sheet protector, save that piece of paper, because that is your guideline on whether or not you should ask for an increase. There is, there's no time limit. So say you wound up, you fell off of a tank when you were over in, like in Vietnam, but you never reported it, and you really screwed up your back, but you have medical evidence that you screwed up your back then. And you can put in a claim now if you still have a problem. So that's the one thing about disability benefits, is that there is no time limit of backing up, for an injury incurred. And especially today, we're seeing that. So every veteran who served in country in Vietnam, whether you were combat or whether you were a clerk or anything, if you were actually in country working on a base, going out, you're exposed to Agent Orange. It doesn't matter what your job description was. If you were there for more than 10 minutes, you were exposed to Agent Orange. And those problems are now beginning to surface for many of our Vietnam veterans. And there is a brochure that Katie's got there, a nice big orange brochure. That brochure has a list of all the presumption diseases that are being linked to exposure to Agent Orange. And we can send you out that booklet if you would like to get that. But the most common ones that people are coming up with is coronary heart disease, or called ischemic heart disease, diabetes type 2, prostate cancer. There's a larynx, lung cancer, because from breathing in the Agent Orange, and actually Parkinson's disease is one of the presumptives. So, but there is a whole 2 pages list in that book of all the various illnesses and issues that have come from Agent Orange. So for all of the Vietnam vets who are not aware of all that, I really encourage you to either go to the VA's.gov website and look at that, because they also have it listed, or ask our office to send you that booklet. We'd be more than happy to send that to you. And over at the medical center up in Bailey, they have Agent Orange list that they would request that they're trying to get all the Vietnam veterans to get on that. And what they do there is you go in, you register, it's a registry. They give you a free exam. They look over you to see if you have any warning signs of any of the presumptive illnesses. So it would behoove you to do that if you have not already done that. There's also a burn pit registry for those who were over in Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan. Same thing. They are asking you to come in, register, so that they can give you an exam to look at some of the issues that are surfacing out of that particular front. So some of that is breathing issues, some skin problems, fibromyalgia is being linked now to that. So there are some health issues coming from there. The third one that is, and I'm sure I'm totally out of the list here, but the third thing that is that for the Marines, and today's your birthday, if you served at Camp Lejeune during the time period from the 50s to the mid 80s, there was a poison water issue where a lot of different chemicals actually got into the water supply at Camp Lejeune. And if you were there for more than, I think, 30 to 60 days, you were exposed to those toxins. And there are quite a few illnesses that are coming from that area, including bladder cancers, liver cancers. And actually, I've had a couple clients who have had cancer in their tear ducts and stuff. So there's a lot of different things coming out of Camp Lejeune too. So also too, the VA is much more receptive to dealing with PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and what's called MST, which is military sexual trauma. So those are they're much more receptive to people saying that they have these issues, and so they're also getting to that they realize if you were in a combat situation, that the likelihood of you having PTSD is extremely high. So that's something that if you feel that you need counseling, or, that you might be, you want to talk to somebody about that, again, we are here to help with that. And then, and I don't have their pamphlet with me, but the Buffalo Vet Center is located on Sweet Home Road, and they only deal with combat veterans and military sexual trauma veterans. And they are a great resource for that. Most of their counselors and everything are combat vets themselves. Unfortunately, I did not grab that brochure, but they are listed in the phone book. Okay, next slide. Okay. I'm doing this with paper, so that goes, what if a service-connected veteran would be better off with the non-service connected pension or the NEA&A? So say you have a 10% service-connected disability for tinnitus, which, by the way, is the maximum amount they will give you. That's only $140-something or $162 a month benefit. And now you're heading into your housebound, and you're paying a lot of money for aid. The VA, you would apply for the non-service connected pension. The VA would take into consideration what your expenses are, what your monthly income is. And if by doing that, the non-service connected pension would pay you $900 a month, they would stop with the service connected disability payment, and they would just roll everything into that $900. And so you would get the higher of the two. Okay. Next slide, please. All right, so this is where we, answering more in depth about the question about what is available for spouses. A surviving spouse, and you have to look at it, the VA is Veterans Administration. So the disability pays and all the rest of that, it's geared for the veteran. The only real true survivor benefits are for surviving spouses who are eligible for the non-service connected pension. Their figures of how much money they can get is significantly lower than what the veteran gets. And but if the family member has minor children or is responsible for a surviving parent that was dependent on the veteran, they could get extra money. But that's a lot of paperwork. Surviving parents are a very hard thing to get into because you have to prove that you were dependent on the veteran's income to be able to survive, to be able to pay bills up. So that you have to prove that they're a dependent, and that's not an easy thing to do. But the bottom part of the slide says if veteran's death was service connected, DIC may be eligible. So now that is and this is important for veterans to realize this, if you wind up being 100% service connected and you pass away from your cause of death is from that disability, your surviving spouse will be eligible for this DIC, which will be approximately about anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 a month. The spouse will never receive the full amount of money that you are receiving today for your disability. It doesn't sound fair, and I've had a lot of people be very upset about that, but the VA's response to that is it's based on the veteran's disability, not that the veteran was married and that the spouse is dependent on that income or anything like that. They're just very blinders on, this is it, only, we're paying for the veteran's, disability, and that's that. So I strongly advise for people who have who have disabilities that they possibly have not asked to have increased and are having additional problems with it, and you're not at the 100%, I would, and you're married, I would look into that, because if you want to be able to provide for your spouse once you pass away, just realize that whatever you're receiving now, if you're at 80% or 70%, that income stops when you pass away. That's it. I mean, there will be she won't get part of it or anything. That income will end. So that is something that I can't tell you how many spouses we get calls from who didn't realize that that income was going to end. They don't know what they're going to do. They feel that they should be entitled to, I've had several who said that they should be able to claim PTSD from living with a combat veteran. And, and I have to tell them, unfortunately, that there is nothing set up for that. The VA has not taken that in consideration, and they don't really seem interested in trying to address that issue either. So it's something for you to think about, something that you should discuss, and then go from there. And again, try to find your benefits letter to find out exactly what your ratings are, and if you're capable of, if you have symptoms that go with that, pursue that. Don't ever think that there are people who deserve the benefit more than you do. Everybody, if you were hurt, if you've got some of the illnesses that are going on now with Agent Orange and with, Camp Lejeune, or you had, serious injuries when you were in the service and you had operations that now they're bothering you, pursue that. There's, you are entitled to that. There is no cap on that. It's not like, we have, not to take away from that, we have a lot of veterans coming back. We have a lot of active military that are coming back with horrendous problems from Afghanistan and Iraq. But that doesn't mean that the money is all being channeled to that particular conflict right now. There is no limit to who can apply, when they can apply, or how long ago it was that you served. So don't let that stop you from doing what's right for you and your family. Okay, so I'm off of that soapbox. Okay, now on to the next slide. So effective VA benefits on other benefits. This is considered income like any other, for Medicaid and for nonprofits, but except for that $90 award if you're on Medicaid. So if you are, say you're at 100% and you're married, you're receiving over $3,000 a month for your income. If you wanted to go into a nursing facility and you wanted to get, aid, you wanted to apply for Medicaid or something like that, they would look at that $3,000 and they would say, well, you have significant income. And so that would definitely impact what you were going to do. So that is not considered free money as far as Medicaid and going into nursing homes and things like that. They do look at that. I mean, you don't pay taxes on it, which is a benefit, but it is considered income for those particular programs. Okay, next slide. So this slide is titled The Claims Process. So this is where you start collecting all the information. And I know it says family and all that. This is more geared as if you were going into a nursing facility. What my recommendation is that you should always have important papers put together, and it should be a discussion. If you are thinking that down the line, you are going to need to do a non-service connected pension, you should always have your discharge papers put in a safe place and that the family knows where it is. And if you are going to say the veteran has passed away and the surviving spouse is going to be needing to do paperwork down the road, you're going to need to have a copy of the death certificate, you're going to need the discharge papers, you're going to need a copy of the marriage certificate. And the VA wants to know, is your marriage legal? So if you were previously married or the veteran was previously married, you need to have copies of the divorce decrees. And that causes all kinds of angst and everything for family members to try to find that information. So that's always good to get that all put together ahead of time, so that if you ever think that you're going to go forward and do a VA claim, you need to have that information. If you're filling out a form, and say anybody on here is already trying to do this on their own, you need to make sure you answer all the questions that they're asking you. So you need to read those forms, you need to answer those questions and give them all the evidence that they're requiring. Otherwise, the claim is just going to sit there on somebody's, they actually get scanned in and they're electronic. But if somebody pulls it up and it's missing all kinds of information, it's going to be flagged and it's going to go away and nobody's really going to look at it for a long time. If you're denied, you can always reapply, but don't forget, if you're denied a claim, that means that the information you gave them was not sufficient. So now you need to come up with new information. Yeah, otherwise, if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same answer. So there's no, you can always, like I said, you can always ask for another, review of this, but you really need to have additional information. And especially like for the non-service connected, if it's denied because your income is too high and something happens and the income winds up decreasing, maybe the veteran is still alive, but the veteran's spouse has died, the spouse's income has now stopped, the veteran could then say, could reapply because now the income is significantly less. So those are all things to take into consideration. Okay, next slide. All right, so this is their tips on keeping your family organized and focused. So as I said, always have a backup, have everybody know where all this important information is. We get lots of phone calls here from people looking for discharge papers because they can't find what mom or dad did with them. And they're tearing apart all the photo albums and they're going through people's, all the drawers and everything, and they can't find this stuff. Make sure people know where this stuff is. Have it be accessible. Make copies. Give the copies to your family members. I mean, if you've got 4 kids, give each kid a copy of your discharge papers and all that, so that, if somebody can't find it, maybe the other person's got it. Now, if you have filed a claim, then you need to pay attention to phone calls. The VA will call the client, the applicant. They will send, especially if it's a compensation claim, because they're doing what they call CMP exams, which means they set up an appointment for you to come in and they want to look at you. So if you're putting in a claim because you've lost mobility in your back and you can't bend anymore and you had an injury, from way back when, they're going to want to see you. And you're going to get a phone call, but it's not going to come across on your ID as the VA medical center. They have a third party that does this. So if you're in the claim process, you have to pick up the phone. You have to get those phone calls. You have to deal with all the other, crazy nuisance calls, but you got to pick up the call because the VA is going to try to contact you that way. Then if they can't get a hold of you, they will send a correspondence out and say, we've tried to get a hold of you X amount of times. We need you to contact us. You get any letters, any paperwork from the VA, open it. Don't just toss it on the dining room table or anything. Because there are time constraints on these things. And it used to be when we were working with clients that the VA would give us copies of those letters. They no longer do that. So now when we're working with a client, one of my old statements with them is, whenever you get a phone call, anytime you get an email or you get an email from them, you've got to let me know, because they're reaching out to you and not to me. And I don't want you, my client, giving them information that could be harmful to your claim because you don't know what you just said or what you just sent them. So that's why we're here. We're advocates. We go over everything. We make sure that it's all correct information, not something that they're going to read something else into, or that it's incorrect. It's an incorrect answer, because we get that too, where people send in things and it's an incorrect answer to a question, and it causes massive problems. As a matter of fact, as an example, just so you realize what kind of a problem this caused, we had a veteran who was applying for aid and attendance. The wife was filling out the paperwork. I take that back. He had passed away. She was in a nursing home. They were applying for paperwork for her to go in to get aid and attendance. And they marked that she hadn't lived with the veteran at the end of the marriage. And it wound up that they denied her, saying that she wasn't legally married. Well, she marked out that she hadn't been living with him because he had been in a nursing home. they were still legally married, but she wasn't, quote, living with him because he was in a nursing facility. That took us, and I kid you not, about 8 months to straighten that out. So it is really important that you know, that's why, again, that's why we weren't working with her until after the fact. And so then, like I said, that was quite the project, getting that straightened around. So it's really important to have some advocate, somebody working with you to double check all those questions. Okay, next. Yay, we're at questions and answers. Yay. So just really quick, I don't know, is there any questions in there? Katie?
I'm seeing at least one.
Okay, shoot. Papers.
You want me to go for it?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine. It says, I realize this might not be the correct area to ask this question, but I don't know where to start. I'm trying to coordinate health benefits for my father, specifically dental.
Okay. The VA does not offer free dental care to veterans unless they happen to be retired military or they're at 100% permanent and total disabled. So that is something where you're probably not going to be able to get that from the VA, but there are various areas that, like the UB Dental School, they do free dental care a lot of times for veterans. Because don't forget, it's a dental school, so you're getting, people who are learning to be dentists. So they often will do veterans for nothing. They a lot of times do people for a minimal amount of money, just regular, non-veterans, but they really do things for the veterans. Aspen Dental also does things for veterans. And I am not sure if that's just limited to like Veterans Day and Memorial Day, but they also do special things for veterans. So you might want to try those too for the dental. So I wanted to touch base real quick. This is not on the slides. There are additional benefits available to veterans who are service-connected disabled. And they increase with the different percentages. And the state has a whole lot of different things that they have. Now, any veteran can apply for the home loan program. And that is not based, the VA does not give out money. But what they do is they wind up kind of being a cosigner. And what happens with VA home loan guarantee is that sometimes, or a lot of times, that waives closing costs, may get you a lower interest rate, things like that. They do not do new builds, but they do purchasing a house, and in some cases, I think they do home improvements. Now, the home loan program is run through all the various banks and mortgage companies. So if you're interested in that, you talk to the lending facility that you're contacting and see what they can do. When I bought my house, I actually used FHA loan because it was a better deal than the VA loan. But so that's what those people do, is they help you find the best. But everybody, as long as you have an honorable discharge, you're eligible for that. For anybody who owns their property, if you have not done this already, you need to go to your assessor and see about getting your discount, your veteran discount on your property taxes. Not every town, offers the same amount. So you need to go, it's not a blanket thing. Every town makes their own decisions, and they make the decision on what they're going to give to combat vets and what they're going to give to disabled vets. And if they're going to even have any kind of break for peacetime vets. So each town is different. I will have to admit that in Hamburg, there is a veteran committee, and they wound up bothering, I guess is a nice way to put it. They sat in the audience of the Frontier School Board for months on end to get the school board to grant veteran tax exemptions. So there is power in numbers. So if your municipality doesn't give any kind of, or your school district does not give a veteran discount, I would definitely talk to your American Legions, your VFW posts. There's probably one or two in every town, and start working on having an organized meeting and start going to those meetings of the school boards and stuff and start putting out, you can reach out to the Hamburg Town Board, the Hamburg Veteran Committee. You can call the Hamburg Town Hall and talk to the town clerk there, Kathy Ruspinski. She is on that board, and they can help with giving you guidance on how they handled it. So again, that's the Hamburg Town Clerk, and talk to Kathy Ruspinski. Okay, so there is, moving on, there are a whole kind of other additional discounts for people who wind up with more and more with a higher disability rates. And once you're 100% disabled, that's when you get your dental treatments. And you also get a waiver on the National Service life insurance premiums. You get the VA medical treatment for priority group 1. You can get the national life insurance, total disability income provisions. And if you're 100% permanent in total, your survivors can get on the CHAMP VA program. So those are all different things that are available. You can also get, for the state, you can get, once you're 40%, you can get a reduction on your hunting and fishing license. Once you're disabled, you also are eligible for the state veterans home. And you can also get reduced rates on auto registration and things like that. So there are a lot of different benefits that are available. Ask for them. Don't be shy. When you're in some place, ask if there's a veteran benefit. You'd be surprised at how many businesses and stuff offer that. Here in Erie County, the county clerk, he offers a veterans card. It was called Thank a Vet card. You may already have that as a photo ID. And there's about 1,400 businesses and stuff that you show that card, and it gives you discounts. And I have found that a lot of businesses will give you a discount even if they're not in that program if you have that picture ID. Now, that's done by either coming up here into Buffalo to 92 Franklin. That's the county clerk's office is there. You need to have your original discharge papers to do this. So if you don't have your discharge papers, you need to request those, and that's a form. It's called an SF standard form 180, and that is something that's available again on the website, on the va.gov website, or again you can call our office. You want to put that last slide up, okay? That's our contact information, and you can ask us to send you that form, and then you can fill that form out and mail it down to the archives down in Missouri. So that is, everybody who's out there should have a copy of the discharge paper, and you really should. If you haven't registered with the county clerk's office, you need to do that because they get lost. The county clerk will always have them. If family members can't find your discharge papers because they scanned in your original, they can print up another copy and they'll stamp it, and it's as good as the one that we got when we got out of the service. So I strongly recommend that you do that. And then while you're here, you would get the card. Now, what happens in some of the outlying areas, Cheektowaga, West Seneca, the southern, Orchard Park, the clerk was doing outreaches. But with the COVID-19, everything's been sort of turned topsy-turvy, and I don't think that they were doing any outreaches. But you can always contact your town hall and see if they're going to do an outreach. They were trying to get as many veterans as they could into the system. Now, you can always call your town clerk and see if the county clerk is going to be doing anything, if they're going to be coming out. So now, new gift from the federal government as of tomorrow, all veterans and Gold Star families are going to have permanent free entrance into any federal park. So that is going to be a new program that's going to start tomorrow. And it was on the Department of the Interior's website. And to read what they said, it said, as of this Veterans Day 2020, all Interior managed lands are granting veterans and Gold Star families immediate free access to the treasured lands they or their loved ones fought to protect. So this is going to be we've been told that this is going to be a permanent gift that the country is doing for veterans, and Gold Star families is granting them access to, free access to places like Mount Rushmore and Yosemite and things like that. So, and hopefully the state of New York will follow suit, but I can't speak for the governor. I don't know what they're going to do, but this is a nice thing, that the Department of the Interior has now done. And finally, for those of you who want to know, the cemetery, the National Cemetery that's going to be opening up in Pembroke or Corfu is due to start taking some burials by either the end of this year or the beginning of next year. So that's there. If anybody's interested in what their address is, it's 1254 Indian Falls Road in Corfu, and the zip code for those who want to use the driving aids is 14036. So they are supposed to be getting ready to start taking burials. The ground was actually consecrated back in September. So it's all ready. All the various members of the different religious organizations, as well as the Seneca Nation of Indians, all came out and blessed the property. So it's ready for everybody, to be interred. So that is something where you may, if take a drive out there and go see it, and find out what the processes are. You cannot pre-request the property. You can't call the cemetery association and say, I want to have a burial site and what is being called now is the Western New York National Cemetery is the name of this one. This one or Bath. You can't pre-reserve a space, but you can call them and find out what you need to do to handle that. There's a brochure, Katie's got that too, what to do before a veteran dies. And that list, it's very specific inside here on what kind of important records you need, what kind of VA burial and memorial benefits there are, what the process is for burial in a VA national cemetery, what interment allowances are, how to get the burial flags, what to do about, the color guards. I don't know if that's mentioned in here, but military funeral honors, all of that is mentioned in here. So make sure that's, again, make pre-burial arrangements. If you want to have an honor guard, you should be talking to whoever it is that you're thinking about is going to do the services, and tell them, I want military honors. I want a member of the Marine Corps or the Air Force or the Army or your National Guard, whichever branch you were there. You want them there for your family to be able to fold the flag, to present the flag to your surviving family members. So that is something that, again, if you need that brochure, we have them here. The other two brochures Katie has are brochures that are three brochures there, that we have a brief outline of the various benefits that you can get: the disabled veterans, the pension for the vet, and then the non-service connected veteran, the surviving spouses. So we have brochures on that, and we're more than happy to mail out any of those for information that you might want. And I think my brain's fried. I imagine everybody else's is too. I think that's it. So if we have any more questions. Oh, and for those of you who don't have the computers and everything, the contact information that we had on there was, again, our general phone number is 858-6363. And then we have contact information through our emails, and mine is Felice, so that's capital F, then it's ELICE, period, capital K, RYCIA, Krycia, at Erie.gov. So that's ERIE.gov. So that is my contact. The other service officer is Daniel Radka, and his is Daniel, capital D, ANIEL dot Radka, capital RATKA at erie.gov. So we're the two service officers. We're more than happy to answer any questions. I said the 6363 number is our general line in, and if we don't answer, make sure you leave us a message and we will get back to you as soon as we can. And make sure you say your name and your phone number and a brief message of why you're calling. And then that's what we're here for. We're here to help. So I hope everybody got something out of this rambled presentation. I'm used to doing this in front of people and handing out brochures, and I'm a paper person. So hopefully this all worked out and you were able to get some useful information out of this. Any questions?
Felice?
Yep.
We have one question, and I just want to thank you very much for giving us all this information and keeping it all straight in your head, honestly.
I know, that's like her. Yeah.
The question I'm seeing is, will you go over how to set up an appointment with you or Dan, possibly to review eligibility for service-connected benefits?
Sure, we can do that over the phone. So you don't need to come down into the city, because we are located at the Rath building. So we're right downtown. But you can give us a call. I said, call the 858-6363 number. And we can go over some of the basic information with you over the phone. We can send you forms. We can, a lot of the people, especially with the COVID, that's going on here, and now we're in a yellow zone and all this other stuff. We've done a lot of this stuff through the mail, through the telephones, through emails, because we don't want to expose anybody, especially our seniors who are at higher risk. So we can go over all of that. Just give us a call at the 858-6363 number.
Okay, thank you, Felice. We have a comment. Thank you so much. This was great information.
And thank you for the nice comment.
I will give a plug for the Veteran Services Agency Facebook and Twitter account. If you're not already following them, or if you don't already like them, please consider doing so. They work really hard on putting out interesting posts of history facts and things that are going on and things that you should know about. So you should follow them. I know I do. And with that, I think we're done. I just have a couple more thank yous, Felice, but I want to be mindful of your time, and everybody go get outside if you can.
Yeah, enjoy that 70-some-odd degree weather. Bottle it if you can.
All right, I'll send out the slides today. I have a couple requests for your information, Felice, so I'll connect with you offline. But again, thank you to everyone. Happy Veterans Day tomorrow. Thank you for your service, and everyone take care.
Thank you.